Running Sentences presents Miles to Go, Part 10, Another Stop on the Road. Hiram and Lindsay had a few choices to make while keeping on this trail they'd been given, a sort of map thing. None of them were easy. This story is written and narrated by Michael Henry. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within the story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on and so forth is purely coincidental. Copyright 2026, Michael Henry, all rights reserved. The SUV was parked next to the gas pump around back of a gas station. A young man stood there fueling them up. Hiram and Lindsay stood off to the side, staring at a starry night sky that was developing. The occasional sound of a car zoomed by on the highway not far off. "I have a theory, Lindsay." "Is this going to be a crazy one?" she replied. "Slightly, maybe. Not entirely sure." "Alright, well, sounds fun. What is it?" "You ever hear about those tales of people traveling along trails to, freedom and stuff like that?" he asked as he continued to stare away. She cocked her head to the side to think about that, which he watched amused and wondered why she'd really agreed to come along on this trip. "I believe I've heard a thing or two from a history class I once took in school." "Yeah, well, like that, I think the little trail we are on feels a little like that, seeking freedom at the end of the road." "Does it now?" They were seated on the edge of the pavement between this building and the dead grassland that stretched out before them. It was a muggy night, and off in the distance one of those sinkholes was just visible. "Kinda, yeah. Not entirely sure what, but I saw some similarities in people seeking freedom and whatnot. Plus, you're the one who mentioned we're on an adventure headed to the border." "I did not put it like that." "How would you like it said, then?" he asked. "That we are on a journey of choices ahead of us, some of which won't be great. The people that you're working for likely want you to find your freedom, potentially." "And don't want me asking about my family." "Excuse me, your car is filled up and ready for your next leg." Lindsay was the first to turn and look at the young man, who was wiping away sweat from his forehead with a dirty rag. "Thank you. Is there a place that we could stay for the night around here?" Lindsay then asked the worker. "The marker on your map, next one is a little hotel. You can drive there pretty quick, though, so the boss says." "You've never been there?" Hiram piped in. "I got my job. That's all I need, sir." "Fair. How much do we owe you?" Lindsay asked. 50, the worker barked. "And the price of what little gas is left keeps going up. Does your boss want cash or credit?" Hiram grumbled unhappily. "Whatever's easier, I guess. I don't pay attention to that sort of thing." "Do you pay attention to much, though?" Lindsay asked the worker. "No, I was told not to, miss." "You remember a bit about though, 'cause who wouldn't?" The young worker shyly shrugs at Lindsay's question, while Hiram glances over to see what she was up to. "Maybe." "I'm only wondering if others like us have come through here lately. Someone like us who have money and are coming through this back way." "Oh, it's not lately. It's been a while. But yeah, sometimes folks like you come through with money all headed towards the border," this gas station worker offered. "How many would you say have done this?" "Personally, that I've seen? 4. I think boss seen 7 or 8 pass by our doors." Hiram got up from the edge of the parking lot and went to fetch some money from the trunk. Once he had it, he handed it over and sighed as he looked at the trail that they'd been going down. A rut of a path that didn't look all that nice. The worker had, though, just vanished off, leaving Lindsay to get up and join him, looking out at the dead grassland about the area. "We should get going, Hiram." "Were you trying to make me feel better about my idea that this was a freedom trail?" No idea what you're talking about. I was only curious. A secret organization within the government was up to something by creating a sort of trail. Yeah, by sending them to the border to be free. A really weird way of doing things instead of telling people what the whole deal was. Would you have agreed to it if you'd known about that in the first place? No idea. Frankly, not sure if I want to know. I guess we get moving, he said, shaking his head wistfully. You're driving, she said as she tossed him the keys. The trail had taken a rather bumpy turn, with everything being uneven despite the straight-looking land in front of them. Up ahead they could just make out the next marker on the map, which was supposed to be a place to stay. The closer they got, though, that just looks like a shack, Hiram announced, mostly for himself, but still. Yes, and one we might potentially can stay in. You're confident we can stay in there, Lindsay? No, but I need rest, and you do too. We don't really have anywhere else to stay for the night. This car can handle it. We can keep moving, if you want to. She gave him a dry look. Go over to that landmark and see what it has to offer. We can sleep in the car, but I prefer that it be in a more comfortable space. A few minutes later, Hiram pulled the SUV to a stop in front of this shack. It looked like it contained no more than one room, and it had several holes in the thin metal-looking walls. They both got out and peered through those holes, and saw through to the other side. Still want to stay in there? Hiram asked, looking not very sold on the idea of this. I'm exhausted, Hiram. I want some rest, so I'll take this despite the cold. I'll get your blankets from the car. You can stay in the house, and I'll sleep in the car. Are you sure about that? It looks big enough for both of us to have a space, she asked him. We wound up cuddling in the cold house the other day. I think the same thing would happen here. It might and probably will be better to do that in the car. But if you want the shack, he offered. She wandered off towards it, while he stayed by the car, checking it over, trying to figure out if he could make it comfortable. There was the back seat area that was missing the seats, so they could easily lay out, but it would not be all that comfortable of a sleep. Her voice came back a moment later. I hate to say you're right about that, Shaq. Sleep is better than talking. Let's just sleep in the car, Hiram grumbled. Their night hadn't actually wound up being all that great, but they'd kept each other warm, and that was enough for both of them. Early morning got them up and moving again, headed down the trail, with the question on Hiram's mind if that landmark had actually been the spot they were supposed to stop at. Now, though, they'd found an overlook landmark and had come to a stop at it to admire the highway, another gas station off in the distance, and the shambles of a barbed wire town that lie ahead. Do you think that's a military town? Lindsay asked. That or militia, or just a town under control of a mad person. Not a place we probably want to visit, though. I think it might be. And why would you think that? The outlook of the mountainous rocks that jutted out towards the road gave a good view of the surroundings. Its top was covered in a chain-link fence that rose a good 10 feet high, which Lindsay was leaning against. We need people if we're going to make a run for the border. Have we really actually decided on that? Running past the border, I mean? Not really, we haven't, but if we do, she said and carried on, we still need the help of people to get there. No one is simply going to let us walk or drive to that next country. We can't really know that, though, can we, Lindsay? We can guess, though, that things aren't going to be simple. Why would they be, after all? We should be prepared to push for the border with all of our might. You actually do sound like you've made up your mind. Does feel like a smart move, doesn't it, Hiram? So yes, I've made up my mind and think we should do this. I don't like this, but, we're going to that town? Yes, I'm driving. He merely nodded along. The road off of the path into the highway wasn't a super hard one to find. Lindsay had gotten them on the road and promptly came to a stop, as there was a blockade on the road with a few men armed with rifles standing on it. "I think we might back up and get back on the trail," Hiram suggested. "I would say I don't think that's a good idea, Hiram," Lindsay replied. One of the guards was approaching slowly, rifle resting against their shoulder, aimed directly at them. "Oh, right, what fun. I hope this guy isn't trigger-happy and thinks the solution to all of his problems is to shoot first." "I think we will find out in a moment, Hiram. Shut up," she whispered at him. The man had come to a stop a few steps away, but close enough to the driver's side window. He mimed making the window go down, which Lindsay obligingly did. "What are you two doing out here?" "Driving through," Lindsay responded. "You came from a back road pathway. You don't do that if you're coming through." "We saw the town and figured we should visit," Hiram interjected. "And why would you do that, mister?" "Well, she wanted to, and that's enough reason for me." "Yes, as my friend points out, we're only looking to move on through. Nothing more, nothing less. Can we do that, or do we have to get back on the old pathway we were on?" "You think you can leave?" the soldier said in a sort of gargle of words. "We would like to, yes, mister." "No one leaves here once they've seen it. This is your last stop along the road." The man cocked the rifle he had in his hands, while Lindsay stared him down. "What's the plan, Lindsay?" Hiram whispered the words as softly as he could, hoping they wouldn't be caught by this militiaman's attention. With the finger on the trigger, it was really the only question of when the shooting would start. "We'll open that road and we will go in and follow all of your orders," Lindsay offered. "Yeah, don't try anything." The man turned and waved to the others, who began pulling away at the blockade, which turned out to be not much of one. With the road now clear, Lindsay began driving them into this town. They drove for a little bit, which Hiram looking in the mirrors to make sure that they had some separation between them and the man on the blockade. Since it looked that way, he turned to Lindsay. "Do you have a plan now?" "I'm waiting for a little bit." "What? For what?" Hiram asked desperately. "I think we might only get one shot of driving out of here. I want to time this correctly." "I don't know what you're trying to do, but give me a hint so that I can brace for the madness." "They will come for us, and when they do, we drive as fast as possible." "They have guns, Lindsay. Now isn't the time to wait for them as we drive down their main street," he pointed out. "We should see if there are people here first that we can help. I don't want to start a car chase in the middle of a busy road." The road in front of them was completely empty. Still, Lindsay was peering out and was extra cautious, which Hiram appreciated since the militia folk appeared to have disappeared. "How about driving a little bit faster right about now?" he requested. "I'm not rushing this." "Didn't ask that. Asked to move a little quicker." "Are you seeing something that I'm not?" "Yeah, lots of people looking out of the windows of these buildings. All of them really gaunt, really sharp-looking teeth from what I've seen, and blood-stained. They all kind of look hungry." Lindsay leaned a bit closer up the driver's side window to get a better look. "Yeah, that actually looks bad." "Speed would help here." "We aren't going to be able to simply drive out of here." "It's best to try and keep moving, and faster, though." "Well, I would, but I don't know the roads around here, so moving faster is going to be a danger as well." The loud sound of a diesel engine roared up close behind them. A glance in the mirrors showed a big burly truck with men and women hanging off of it. "Great. More speed now, please?" he requested. "Now, yes. Now we hurry." Her foot slammed into the gas, sending the SUV screeching forward as a voice yelled after them. "Stop! You're not to leave our colony!" They kept driving, turning left, right, and going straight when they could. At some point, they found themselves on a side road, a narrow thing that cut through some back alleyways that hadn't been taken care of in years. People had come pouring out of this building, trying to stop them and grab at the car as they sped by, though not putting themselves in too much danger. They often just got out of the way. "I admit now that this was a bad idea," she offered by way of apology. "Doesn't matter now. We need to find an exit out of here." "Are we still being followed?" "People keep popping up in front of us, so I guess yes." "You don't know and haven't looked behind us?" "I was afraid that I would see some guns." The sound of something whizzing past and then a gunshot echoing about the road they were on made them realize that, yeah, the guns were going to happen. Both cast a glance to one another and then back to the road. Lindsay putting her foot down even harder as a person tried to jump into the path of the car, then quickly jumped away when they realized that it wasn't going to stop. "Why did I open my mouth?" "I don't know. That saying isn't all that helpful," Hiram replied. They arrived at an intersection and she spun her wheel, taking them to the left, hard. Hiram slid a little bit in his seat as he braced himself against the door. "It's better than driving in silence," she said. "You want me to talk you through this?" "It might help," she asked. "Fine, take the next right." "Taking the next right. Can I ask why, though?" "I think I saw the desert grasslands out to our right not too long ago. It's our best bet for leaving this town, I think," Hiram said as he tried to look for a handhold to keep him from sliding about. An intersection quickly came up, but as they slowed, it did not look like a spot where they could potentially turn right or left. Lindsay waffled for a moment. "Keep going. Another spot not far away that we might be able to turn now." "Yeah, I know. I saw that we weren't going to fit there. Thank you for not being helpful." "Sorry," he said this and turned to look behind them, afraid of what he might see. There were a few people back there and waving their hands at them, but no cars chasing, and he couldn't see any guns. That was odd, and he didn't really like what he saw one bit. "What are we dealing with?" Lindsay called out. "No one from the looks of it." "Sorry, what do you mean, no one? And sorry for yelling a second ago." "Don't worry about it. There are people behind us, but there are ones coming from the buildings. No cars so far." "What's that mean?" "Either they believe they can trap us, or they gave up, or they think we will run out of gas and deal with us in a few minutes." "None of those sound very great." "Nope, and I regret thinking any of them. How are we doing on gas, by the way?" "Half a tank." "Good enough to get to the brush of the grasslands and crash through some fence?" "Yep, I really do think so." The car spun hard to the right as she took the promised turn. Surprisingly, that turn led them across the main road and thoroughfare through this town and onto a clearing which once might have been a park. It was hard to tell with the dead grass and what plants were alive or quite overgrown. Their tires bumped over the ground, jerking the SUV and rattling them as they drove. A fence looming into sight just ahead. "Huh, you were actually right." "It happens. Not normally, but it can happen, Lindsay." "Can you look behind us to make sure that no one is following?" "Yep, should I though?" "We do need to know." He rolled down the window a bit more and peeked out to see what was there. Rather surprisingly, there was still no cars chasing them, nor any people at this point, so he kept watching, waiting and trying to see what would happen. Well, nothing was happening. It would be better to have some report of an event so that he could report on it. "Is there anything going on in front of us?" "A fence is in our way? Why?" There's still no one behind us and around us. It's rather suspicious. No time. We need to get to that next gas station and out of this country. Anything sounds better than this spot right now. Yeah, brace yourself. Hiram pulled himself back in, wound the window back up, and then grabbed a hold of the door rest and the seat as he turned around. He did his best to brace himself as they crashed in some barbed wire. This was followed by a chain-link fence, which didn't offer much resistance, and then another twine of barbed wire. Halfway through this mass of clashing metal and glass and metal, he closed his eyes and turned his head away in case the windshield broke. Did we get through with no trouble? He waited for a response and then opened his eyes since the vehicle was still bouncing madly around. Yeah, we're free. How are things behind us? Opening his eyes to the grassland ahead, they were about as what he expected to see and out this front window. A piece of the fence was caught in the window along with some barbed wire, which he gently pushed off when he opened it. He then went and poked his head back out and came back in. All clear. That is very suspicious. Yes, but the next gas station is ahead, and we need to get out of here and out of this country. You're on board with all of that now? The town looks like it was into cannibalism or tribalism, or some sort of ism that I don't even know about. I'd rather not stay in a country that's okay with that. Pulling up to the gas station, they got out of the car, ready to run or do something, in case anybody was chasing them. The station clerk looked up at them as they did, frowning and taking a long look back down the path that they'd come from. Saw them coming down the road. We drove through the town and attracted some attention, Lindsay replied. Oh, are those weirdos coming? Maybe, maybe not. They weren't chasing us when we left, but did not make any friends by when we tried to get through. Can we get some gas and then we can leave? Hiram explained to the man. Yeah, sure, We're headed to the border, so fill it up as much as you can. Whatever type of gas you have is good enough for us. All right, I'm on it. The clerk hurriedly went about his job while keeping an eye on things. The two got back onto the path that had been mapped out for them along the bumpy road as they came. Hiram was now driving as they moved across this land, trying to keep away from highway and towns. A few passed by and seemed to be getting closer to one another. So, we're really going to leave? Feels like that best option. You can stay if you want to, but after that last town, it was, Hiram said, letting his words trail off. What was going on with that one, and why are the other towns looking so similar from the one we went through? I don't know, but they all have a look of people who wanted to have their way with others. In the distance, a large object began to loom up and grow in size. I think the end of the road is up ahead, isn't it? Looks like it, though I don't know that I've ever seen a wall so big. How the fuck does it even support itself? Wasn't there an old wall that stood for centuries and could be seen from space? Lindsay asked. Yeah, in another country that I think broke apart into several countries like this one did. But that, as far as I know, was a giant structure. And there goes my theory and ideas and thoughts about simply driving around the checkpoint to get into the other country. You seriously thought we were just going to drive around it and be safe and free? Hiram asked her. I don't know, I didn't really think much about it, other than that's the thought that came to my mind, she explained with a shrug. There was also the appearance of another sort of shape up ahead that was a bit smaller, but still fence-like. New thing on the horizon, he called out. Is that the border? All they could really do was wait and see, which Hiram was struggling to do as he was eager to get somewhere safer. They found themselves on the highway, which made quick work of the remaining road, leading them up to a small fence that blocked the way, with a guard crossing gate and a few soldiers standing in the way with guns at the ready. Hiram slowed the car as he approached the checkpoint, gripping at the wheel in his hands tightly as one of the men held out their hands to stop them as they were approaching. "I dearly hope that this goes better than our last stop at a town," Hiram said to Lindsay, "because the gas station stop shouldn't really count." "Are you making fun of me? It wasn't my fault that all of that happened," Lindsay sniped back. "A little bit of both, yes," he said, this rolling down the window so that this guard could come talk to them. "Mr. Hiram." "Huh?" Hiram replied, confused that this person knew his name. "You're Mr. Hiram and Miss Lindsay, aren't you?" "How do you know that, sir?" Lindsay piped in. "We were told in advance that you'd be coming on through." "By who?" Hiram questioned. The guard in his stiff-looking uniform leaned over, offering what felt like a genuine smile. "Who do you think would tell us about your name and want you to leave the country?" "Wait a second. Have we left the country already?" Lindsay asked. Sort of, miss. No man's land. Officially, the land belongs to what will be your new home, but we put this up to keep everybody safe." "This was all set up by the agency?" "Right on the first guess, Mr. Hiram. Welcome to your new home away from all the madness. This is what you wanted. You can always turn away if you want, though." "We're free?" Lindsay asked this guard. "Unless you have something to declare." The man was gently tapping the car door in a friendly gesture, sort of like one would pat on the back with a smile. Hiram and Lindsay looked to one another as Hiram tried to figure out if he should say anything or not. "Money-wise or in general, Mr. Soldier?" "Oh, right. Money exchange. You'll have to hand over the suitcase, and we'll give you a new one with the right money." "They don't accept cash from the southern medley of states?" Lindsay asked, a little surprised. The man shook his head sadly. "Too much fake stuff running around. It needs to be checked over and or sold back to the southern medley. Keeps everyone happy." "It's in the trunk. You can go get it if you want, or I can get out of the car and get it." The man waved his arm, cutting off the conversation. "Pop the trunk. I'll get it." Hiram first looked at Lindsay, but then reached for the little pull switch and yanked it forward. A clunk sounded as the trunk slowly opened itself, and the guard then turned and shouted back to one of the others. "My, we need one of those suitcases." Lindsay turned to watch what was going to happen in the back of the SUV, which Hiram also did as well, but realized both watching would just be a bit silly. He turned to see a man running forward with a suitcase. It was a much smaller one than what they had, but this guy stopped at the car door and handed it over to him. "Here you go. This should get you suited up quite well. Sorry if it looks a bit smaller and all that. It's just that the exchange rate is not so great in your dollars." "Thanks," Hiram said. "No problem, and welcome to the Federated States of New England." The trunk thunked shut, and the gate letting them pass to the Great Wall and drive through it opened up. Instead of driving far away from this giant wall, they found the nearest rest stop for the night and slept. It was a very fitful sleep, and one that they desperately had needed, though it had also woken them up early in the morning as the sunlight spilled over the horizon. The rest stop had a view of a snaking river which the highway followed, and the two sat there, watching from this overpass as the sun and the highway slowly began to fill with cars, hurrying around and enjoying the moment. Hiram was watching this as Lindsay leaned against him, and the world was just sputtering on by. End of part 10 of Miles to Go. And the end of Miles to Go. Thank you for listening.